We're on now to our final session, which is the grand finale. Today, there's a lot of talk about fragmented audiences and personalization based on narrowly defined interests. But all of us still share things in common. And there is still something called the national conversation, topics that all of us talk about. So imagine what you would want to say to an audience of 20 million people. It's quite hard to conceive of an audience quite that big. It's 4 times the population of Denmark, nearly. And that's the daily audience for Britain's news brands in the UK. Now, as many of you will know, these are the questions we've put to the UK's creative and media agencies in our Day of Influence competition. We asked them what it is that they would do, and we had a fantastic response. And an intense and enjoyable day of shortlisting a couple of weeks ago with stakeholders represented by Mark Hollingshead, Rosemary Gorman, Abba Newbury, Matt Batchelor, and Richard Furness. As you can imagine, with that lot, it was a very robust discussion. And in a few moments, you're going to hear from those people who made it through to the final round. And it's for you, the audience, now, to decide who the winners will be. Who will win £300,000 of space across all of our platforms on a single day and get the fabulous trophy to take back to them to their agency. For this session, we're delighted to have a stellar panel of clients from some of our leading advertisers who are going to be drilling the contestants Dragon's Den style to see who has the biggest I factor and will become the influencer of the year. I'm going to hand over in a moment to Jim Heitner, CEO of IPG Media Brands International, who's going to chair the session and introduce the panel and the contestants. He's going to be followed by a few words from Newsworks chairman, David Patterson. So from me, I would like to thank all of our speakers for their contributions. I would like to thank all my team at Newsworks for all of the work, thought, and effort that they've put into today, which has been fantastic. And I'd like to thank our bloggers and organisers who've been working furiously behind the scenes. I'd also like to thank you, the audience, for taking the time to be here this afternoon, and particularly those of you that have travelled from Manchester and further afield. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And I hope that you're going to enjoy the next session and to be able to stay for a drink afterwards. So, Jim, it's all yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Jim Heitner, and I'm here to guide you through the final session of today. Now, you don't need to know very much about me, except that I was born in Manchester to Manchester City supporting parents. I supported Manchester United to spite them. I now have 4 children, 3 of whom support Chelsea to spite me, and one of whom, George, he's 4, he sadly doesn't live with us anymore because he said he liked Liverpool. There is a limit to any father's love, and the Scousers are it. Now, I was a client for 20 years, but have run IPG Media Brands International, which means I run the and Initiative and all our other operating units. I've done that over the last 4 years, which is God's way of paying me back for keeping agencies waiting in reception hour upon hour for the first 20 years of my career. But this session, ladies and gentlemen, is guaranteed to lift your spirits and lift mine. On the one hand, we have 3 creative, energetic, potentially award-winning stars from PhD, Mindshare, and Visium. I never thought I'd say those 3 words with such enthusiasm. And on the other, we have 4 highly successful, but ladies and gentlemen, grumpy and impatient dragons who are going to fire questions at our finalists as quickly as it takes to merge Publicis and Omnicom. Okay, a little bit quicker than that. So without further ado, let me introduce you to your highly influential, highly irritable dragons. Dragons, come up, please, to the stage. So that. Karis on the front. Right, I'll give you a quick intro, and then creative stars, we're off. Now, first up is the dragon of all dragons, the king dragon because he's my client. So you can all bugger off. He's my favourite. Jeff Seeley, he is Global Communications Planning Director at Unilever, responsible for delivering the smartest communications thinking on some of the world's most famous brands. He is both a digital guru, ladies and gentlemen, and also a keen vegetable grower, which I think is a glorious combination. Next up, Imad Nadeem, who leads brand strategy, communications, and innovations for Kenco, at the back left. Another man who is both digital and analog. He is passionate and deeply knowledgeable about technology, but even more passionate and even more knowledgeable about Britney Spears. I thought I was out of touch, but no. Keris Bright is a member of the executive leadership team at Ideal Standard International. She was at Unilever for over a decade and the head of global marketing at British Airways. If you're at a dinner party with Keris and start talking about last night's episode of The Voice, don't despair when she drifts off. She has a PhD in molecular neuroscience and is therefore slightly more intelligent than your average Maria Miller. Finally, well, hold on, I'm not being paid for this. Finally, Richard Larkham is brand and marketing director at Virgin Media, but in another life was head of marketing for the Times and Sunday Times. He is quite a literary fellow, ladies and gentlemen, which isn't so surprising as he is related to Jane Austen. For my fellow IPGers in the audience, she wrote books. Can't get the staff nowadays. Okay, we're going to see a film.
We want to use our Day of Influence to tell people that Britain could lead the world in a new energy revolution.
I just need a kick up the arse.
The Day of Influence allows the opportunity to reach out to smokers to try and convince them of the detrimental impact each cigarette can have on their lives.
Prostate cancer. Have you been tested?
We want to give 20 million people a moment to reflect. We are all Macmillan.
Don't know where your kids' clothes come from? We heard the idea to create a kids' clothing brand.
And we hope that with your help we can share these inspiring examples of ways that technology could do good.
We want to work with news brands to create a virtual summer cooking camp.
I thought that went well. First opportunity.
Very good. Right, on to our three finalists. They've done incredibly well, genuinely incredibly well, to fend off thousands of other entrants. So they're all winners in my book, and indeed they will be replacing all those in my company who failed to get this far. Emma Callahan is a group press manager at PhD. John Kershaw is a director at Visium Manchester, but sadly a Grimsby Town supporter. Will be playing you in 2016. And finally, Persa Shadnir is an account manager at Mindshare. And Persa, you have the honour of kicking off our all-star team with your 4-minute pitch.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my pitch for the Newsworks Day of Influence competition, and thank you to Newsworks for the opportunity. Last summer, royal baby fever hit the nation, and with the press camped outside St Mary's Hospital for days, press speculating about the due date, the gender, and the name of the future king or queen, finally, on the 22nd of July, Prince George of Cambridge, future King of England, was born. Warburton's, being a family brand built on heritage, want to congratulate the couple, so they ran a cheeky tactical across the market with the creative message, "Once bun is done. Congratulations from our family to yours," reinstating their brand identity as a family brand built on heritage. When we were proposing the idea for the competition, we noticed that the day the activity would have to run would be the 22nd of July this year, his first birthday. So given how highly covered he is at the moment on his first royal tour of New Zealand, we thought it would be not only fitting to take advantage of this opportunity to get behind the mood of the nation, to influence everyone that Warburton's is a family brand. So the campaign would kick off on the 22nd of July across both online and offline news brand properties. The newspapers will add scale to which we need, and the online platforms will actively drive people to do what we want them to do. The creative message would be simple. We would be asking people to tweet in their best birthday memories with a chance to have it recreated courtesy of Warburton's. This could be anything from flying over a long-lost relative or hiring a venue for a party or just going go-karting with your old school friends that you've not seen in years. We'll be looking at a tool called Sysmos to measure the social footprint. How many people have tweeted in? What's their sentiment been? Positive, negative? Who's the most influential person that's tweeted in and taken part in this competition? Following the tweets, we'll have a suite of print and tablet assets, which will be composed of individual tiles. These tiles will actively showcase the entries we've already had and invite new ones. The campaign will finish with a winner being chosen by Warburton's, and their birthday memory will be recreated. We're hoping that consumers will connect with a simple yet emotive subject. We're using Prince George's birthday as a springboard to remind people that Warburton's is all about family, and celebrating birthdays is one of the times where we get to spend time with our families. So, winning this competition will mean so much to not only Warburton's but also to Mindshare, because we'll be able to showcase to them a traditional brand with traditional behaviours, that they can be an adaptive, forward-thinking influencer through the use of news brands. And let's face it, everyone loves a royal baby. Now, I'll pass over to you for some questions.
Say that. I will protect you. I will protect you. Dragons, you stayed seated, so obviously not a standing ovation yet. But Keris, comments on the presentation and a question if you like.
I think you've chosen a very sort of a good idea in terms of the birthday, but it's clearly going to be one of the most covered events on that day in the country. How are you going to make sure that your idea is really going to cut through when everybody's going to probably want to hijack that one particular day?
I think the fact that we had the tactical message that ran last year will help, because it actually got quite a lot of social interaction. So a lot of people tweeted about it at the time saying, this is amazing, this is fantastic. And actually, so they've already got the springboard from last year to work on. I guess the cut through on the day will be slightly easier given the fact that there'll be such a large amount of spend if we were to win the competition for this one day. I think the fact that we'll be asking people to actively get involved as well will help, because it's not just a cheap. There will be other advertisers who want to do a tactical message as well, and that's great, but they won't be actually asking consumers to get on board and actively do something, which I think, given that I read in the brochures earlier that news brand readers are more than twice as likely to tweet in, I think that the combination of social and news brands will actually prove to be more of a cut-through success than some other advertisers on the day.
Yeah, Richard.
Well, Percy, thank you very much indeed. I think you've really used your loaf in such a fantastic presentation, and I'm sure you'll be making lots of dough for Warburton's. There's plenty more where that came from. Hold tight. I think, one thing that for newspapers has been kind of a blessing and a curse over the last kind of 10, 15 years has been, free CDs on the front of papers, free DVDs with various papers. So have you considered free bread attached to, as part of a sales promotion to kind of really get some cut through and perhaps trial of this fantastic product?
They have in the past done free testing, but I think it's quite actually logistically difficult to get the bread from the factories in the north down to all the printers. But what I would say is that I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say.
Don't bother. He's new to the series. He's only just made it in.
I was going to say something really good. But
well, don't you worry. It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you. Final comment. Final question, Jeff. And we'll come back to her answer to you.
Excellent presentation. Congratulations. My question will be a bit about the follow-on from this. It's all well and good making a big splash on one day, but what would the legacy of this programme be? How would you then follow up and actually sell bread on the back of it?
Okay, so that kind of ties in with his question, what I was going to say as well. So,
please tell me
Brilliant, brilliant.
About the... so this campaign isn't necessarily going to be about selling bread, although the end result we hope will be increase in sales. It's more about brand favourability and getting people to think about Warburtons differently, getting people to have an emotional connection. Because if you walk down the supermarket, the bread aisle, or even the breakfast segment, if you like, it's a really cluttered market. You've got cereals, you've got gluten-free, you've got wheat-free, you've got all the different breads, white, whatever. So the whole category is really cluttered. If we can influence people to have an emotional connection with Warburtons following this campaign, then next time they're walking down the aisle and they see all the different competitors, they're more likely to choose Warburtons over their competitors. So I guess the legacy, we wouldn't want to reveal all our secrets for what we would do after this campaign, but it would be building on... we would be building on increase of brand favourability.
Very good. Well done you. Well done. Did you know, I told you that I had a son called George, who is 4, and I was born on July the 22nd, so I was absolutely bloody thrilled that Prince George was born on July the 22nd. Ruined my entire life. Right. Grimsby loving John, come up here, back of the net, son, give it to them.
There are fewer than 480 mountain gorillas left in the rainforest of Rwanda. They are critically endangered. We are their greatest hope of survival. You are their greatest hope of survival. All you have to do today to make a positive difference is vote HOPE. Our ambition is to make the 22nd of July a day of hope. By leveraging the unique scale and influence of the UK's premier news brands, we will reach and inspire 20 million people continuously throughout the day, raising awareness, participation and money for the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund International. Our client, Craghoppers, sponsors the Gorilla Fund. Earlier this year, Craghoppers travelled to Rwanda to create a beautiful film called Hope, narrated by Sir David Attenborough, to highlight the fund's efforts and remind people about the gorilla's plight. We will use news brands to do 4 things. Share this amazing film with the huge audience it deserves, give context to the story, inspire people to document their own hopes for the future, and finally, but most crucially, to raise money to support the Gorilla Fund's projects. What we're looking to do will not be easy, but it will be amazing and truly influential. Working seamlessly across all news brand platforms, we're going to launch a competition challenging 20 million people to tell us what hope means to them. Each entry will also be a pledge to donate £1 or more to the Gorilla Fund. Each of our photo, text and video competition entries will become a leaf on the tree of hope, an online, interactive hub that throughout the course of the day will capture and showcase the hopes and aspirations of the UK public. We'll start with a big launch in the morning of our newspaper ads, incorporating AR technology to link directly to our video. In keeping with the Hope theme, all these ads will appear next to uplifting editorial. We'll also play the Hope film trailer to morning commuters via their smartphones and tablets, and send out a broadcast email to all news brand subscribers. We know that Twitter and news brands complement each other perfectly, so we'll boost participation by leveraging the Twitter followings of journalists, columnists, and celebrities using the hashtag #GorillaHope. At lunchtime, we'll broadcast the Hope film in its entirety to people browsing news brand websites during their lunch break. We'll also host a live Twitter chat incorporating editors, Gorilla Fund representatives and relevant celebrities so people can find out more about the campaign aims and the fund's great work. Later in the afternoon, we have a second chance to influence the commuter audience via newspapers. We'll also deliver incremental broadcast reach through time-targeted mobile and tablet ads, and we will retarget people who saw our video earlier in the day with harder-hitting participation and donation messages. The evenings when we pull it all together, by showcasing the best submissions to the Tree of Hope. All news brands will create an online gallery of the editor's favourite entries, displayed prominently on their websites. Each editor will select one personal favourite who will go on a guerrilla expedition to Rwanda to see for themselves the vital work the Guerrilla Fund undertakes. The Guerrilla Fund spends all its money on project work. Just 8% of its budget goes on fundraising activities worldwide. We simply cannot give Hope the platform it deserves without your support. If we don't win today, we can't divert funds from elsewhere and run this campaign anyway, because there is no money. We are their greatest hope. You are our only hope. Please, vote Hope.
Very good, John. Very good presentation. I see that Visium have got the money to send out crew to the jungle to take it. Please note, clients, please note. Great presentation, Dragons. I'll kick off with you, Ahmad. What would you like to comment or ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here very sort of impacted by your presentation and a bit teary, but also feeling a bit guilty about the fact that I've never spent a pound of my money on a gorilla before. Help me understand, how will you sort of take people that are genuinely cynical about giving money to gorillas versus perhaps saving hundreds of millions of people that are sort of human beings in dire situations who could perhaps, in their opinion, be better served with that pound of your money?
Well, one of the really interesting things about what the Fossey Fund does is a lot of its money actually goes on local projects. The reason why the gorillas are endangered is because of poachers, and most of those poachers are the locals who live in the remote jungle environments. So a lot of its money actually goes on education programs. So one of the reasons why I want to raise money is to build a local school. It goes on education programs, so those people go into proper jobs rather than have to go into poaching. It goes into funding kind of transport routes so they can get to work more easily. So actually, this isn't just about the gorillas, it's also about impacting those people in Rwanda. Remember, this is the 20th anniversary this week of Rwanda Genocide Week. These trackers that work for the Fossey Fund operate on the border of Rwanda and Congo. You know, they literally kind of put their lives on the line every week. You know, they just last year, one of the trackers got shot by poachers because they operate on that Congo border. So this is as much about a human story. It's as much about saving the communities in the Rwandan rainforest as it is about gorillas.
Happy with that? Do you know what? I was in Shanghai last week pitching Microsoft, and I was asked a question by the client, and I wish I'd swerved it as well as he just swerved that one. That was absolutely magnificent. Bloody hell. Brilliant. Rich.
Unlike my learned dragon, I have spent £1 on a gorilla, but it looked nothing like any of the ones that you showed in your documentary. A little lad from Salford, never want to see him again. Anyway, I thought that your presentation was excellent, and mine's actually not a question, it's more of a comment. I think that the fact that you've integrated editorial into your thinking, I think is hugely powerful. So I think not only do you have a commercial solution, but I think that you've integrated editorial and the readers. So I think you've got kind of three very, very important kind of parts to your campaign. And I thought that you presented brilliantly.
Thank you, Richard. Great. Jeff.
Yeah, congratulations. I thought the way you paced your presentation, but also the way you structured the calendar across the day, I thought was exceptional. I struggled a bit throughout the presentation because one of the first things you talked about was saving gorillas, and I've always known gorillas to be TV buyers and agencies, so I have no understanding of why I'd want to contribute to saving that particular breed, but other than that, no, I thought it was an exceptionally delivered presentation. Well done.
Okay.
Thank you.
If the objective is to influence and make us do something, I think you certainly tugged at some heartstrings and made us feel really guilty if we don't push the button. Not sure that I'm going to yet, because we have more to see. But well done.
Very good. Well done. Very good. And finally, Emma is going to round off this triumvirate of creative brilliance. And then we're going to ask you, as you know, to vote for your winner. Although they're all winners, so please come up.
Hello, I'm Emma from PhD. Today I'm going to give you the chance to make a difference. I'm going to tell you a story which explains why what we're doing is important and why we need the reach and power of news brands to make it happen. I first found out about this project when I was chatting to Jill at Expedia. She visited Tunisia a couple of years ago and she met a taxi driver there. And this driver had been involved in the revolution and tragically he lost his brother. Tourists weren't visiting Tunisia anymore, and when Jill asked what needed to happen, he said, please, tell your friends to come. At that moment, Jill realised the power of tourism to change a country's future. Expedia decided that they were going to use their scale and influence to help countries in distress, and in 2014, that means the Philippines. When natural disasters hit, tourism declines, people are scared to go, and people feel guilty about enjoying themselves in countries which have seen devastation and loss of life. And this in turn makes economic recovery even harder. In 2013, the typhoon in the Philippines affected 14 million people. We saw some of the devastation on the Telegraph drone earlier. It continues to affect people now. Expedia has recognised this vicious cycle driven by news media and word of mouth, and they want to break it by giving countries a voice. So we're going to work with the Philippines Tourist Board, and the plan is to fill a plane with employees, intrepid customers, and hopefully a few journalists who are going to create lots of amazing content, which will then be used to promote the Philippines as a destination, and also to highlight the work that charity partners are doing over there, supported by Expedia funding. The trip will give customers and employees the chance to write about, photograph, and video their time in the Philippines. Expedia is going to gift this content to the Philippines Tourist Board. Ogilvy is already on board to create some compelling and engaging advertising. The message is all about awareness and reassurance. The call to action is to go to the Philippines. It isn't to book with Expedia. This is not a commercial project. So why does it have to be news brands? Well, newspapers are places where campaigning happens. And this is all about giving the Philippines a voice and about influencing people. There's a stat outside that says 8 million people say that news brands influence their choice of holiday. So the content will run in multiple impactful formats across print, digital, tablet and mobile platforms, and will include video for pre-roll. Visually, we'll showcase stunning images of the Philippines with interesting travel facts, all in association with the Philippines Tourist Board. All online advertising will click through to Expedia's blog. The blog is not a transactional site. It's there to inform us and educate us about why we need to visit. We'll also run a Twitter competition across all copy to win a trip to the Philippines through Expedia. We'll measure our success through pre- and post-campaign research, social buzz, digital tracking, and our competition entries. The Day of Influence is the only way we can reach this audience with our message. Otherwise, this content will just live on Expedia's blog and will not benefit from exposure to the news brand audience of 20 million. It's a UK test, but we'll roll it out globally if it's successful, allowing Expedia to work with more tourist boards and charity partners across the world when countries need our help. Please give us the chance to make a difference. We need your help to make this happen. It would be an incredible story and case study to prove the power, reach, and influence of news brands. Thank you.
Okay. I hate those people at PhD. They're always very creative. Yeah, well trained, well trained. Karis, what did you think?
I think it was a well-structured presentation. I really like the way you gripped us in the 30 minutes with a story. I think that's a really good lesson in how to deliver a presentation. I was really impressed. Well done, Emma. Thanks. How are you going to measure the effectiveness of your work?
Well, Expedia and the Philippines Tourist Board have said they'll undertake a pre- and post-campaign, awareness campaign research project for us. Obviously, we'll track all of our digital, and we've got and social media because we've got the competition mechanic being through Twitter. So I think the other thing that Jill at Expedia said was that if we win this and we have a successful case study on the anniversary of the typhoon, Expedia would do a PR project to talk about this, to talk about news brands helping raise awareness of the Philippines, which would be a really nice way to bring it as a partnership for everything, I think.
Jeff, impressed?
Yeah, that sounded like a bribe.
No, absolutely not.
I guess. I mean, we're all open to that. That's fine. That's a joke. Yeah, another. The third of 3 excellent presentations. So good job on that. I guess my if I'm going to ask a bastard question, it would be Expedia spend quite a lot of money on media anyway.
Yeah.
If they're asking for a donation of media space to run this because they don't want to put their hands in their own pockets, are Expedia making a contribution towards the Philippines Relief Fund?
Expedia have raised £40,000 internally so far for the Philippines. It's a corporate social responsibility project that they're doing. So it's going to go ahead anyway, and they're very much have all their employees are on board with this. But we don't have, we want to give the Philippines Tourist Board a voice, basically, and that's why we've entered this.
Okay, Richard?
Thank you very much. I think that you outlined a problem and you gave us a media plan. I didn't see the idea, what the heart of your idea was.
Well, Expedia are going to send out some of their customers and employees to the Philippines, and hopefully some journalists. We want to get the press on board. They're going to be creating content which is going to live on a blog to inform people. The idea is to take that content, to work with Ogilvy and work with publishers, and then use news brands as a way to channel our information out and push our information out about why we should visit the Philippines, why it's important to help their economy recover and raise awareness and reassure people.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? You don't look convinced.
Well, come on, Iman, how's your conscience? Feeling guilty?
No, I loved it. I think it was fantastic, actually. Well done, Emma. I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, to be honest, because, flip side to what Jeff said, actually, there is something that is in the way of a potential commercial model, which will potentially make this a lot more sustainable. For everyone that's ever seen anything to do with Incredible India as a piece of advertising, really, there's something much bigger in here than just a day of influence, but it's a great way to kick it off, so well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done. Okay, clear the stage. Well done, Emma.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Dragons, it's not surprising that you're nice because you're clients, but I thought you gave them a bloody fairer time than you give me when I'm on the other side of it. Let me just ask you to give some comments, voice an opinion. The audience are going to vote for the winner. You're not voting for the winner. You don't even get a bloody vote. I know it's a bit strange for you, but you don't get a vote, okay? The procurement people are out of the building. You don't get a vote. So just express yourself. Tell us who really impressed you, who you might wish to see lift the trophy. What did you think? So I'll start with you, Jeff.
Okay. I thought the best presentation was John. I thought it was the best story. I think there were 3 compelling reasons to choose from each of them with regards to what they would do with the space. I was particularly impressed with how media agencies are seeing how they can craft stories across different platforms, especially using news brands. So that came across strongly, and I was very impressed with that.
Great, thank you. Karis.
I think John's presentation was very compelling. I'm always mindful that it's not difficult to make the heart sing when it's a very worthy and cute animals. Sometimes I think it's tougher to sell more dough, or to try and make.
Are you looking specifically at me when you say cute animals, like little cute animals? Thank you very much.
I think sometimes it's the challenges when you've got something every day quite basic that you're trying to sell are the tougher challenges. Yeah. And where creativity is applied, and therefore on that basis, despite my challenge around the noise on the day, I think Persa's presentation for Warburton's, I think the way she constructed it, the way she delivered it, and actually as a punter, there's something in it for me in terms of wanting to get my birthday recreated. I've got no birthdays I want to create, but I'm going to start to think of one, an imaginary one. So I think maybe just because I think it's a tougher thing to do.
Yeah, great, thanks. Imad.
I think I'll just sort of echo the other guys on the sort of fantastic storytelling from John. I think, no doubt it was probably one of the most impactful presentations I've seen done in 4 minutes before, so well done. I think, though, that when I think about sort of who had the most commercial sound case, it was probably PERSA, because there was a very clear sort of proposition around what they were trying to do. I have a few concerns personally around hijacking royalty and how people feel about that, but I think there was some real sort of commercial thinking that went into that, which is brilliant. For me personally, the best was the last one with Emma, because I think it's a real people issue, which, again, like I said, I think she's undersold herself a little bit, but it's almost the start of something that could be so much bigger in the future.
Great, well that's nice, isn't it? I mean, we didn't rehearse this, and each of you's got a vote. Richard, where were you?
So I think that trying to create an emotional connection with a piece of bread is an incredibly hard task. Obviously, I'm kind of being slightly flippant there, but I think that one, you actually built on a previous thinking and a previous kind of campaign that had already run. You felt that actually that's something that you could kind of take forward. I think it's something that actually lives both kind of online and offline, and actually felt like it has great longevity moving forward. So I think I think actually, unlike my my learned dragon to my right, I think that actually celebrating royalty is something that is easily done and encouraged in this country. I don't think that it is jumping on the bandwagon. I think it actually is something that I think, if done correctly, can propel your brand forward. So on that basis, I'd go for the Warburton's case study.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm slightly worried that Jeff has seen 3 impressive presentations from 3 competitive agencies, so if he could just leave now, that would be good. Dragons, I think another hour and you'd have been at each other, but it was great having you on stage. I'm going to ask you to leave now, but a round of applause for our dragons. Are we running early? I could always do my Microsoft pitch from Shanghai. It might go better this time. No, it actually went very well. If Martin's in the audience, it went very well. We're after you. So now what are we doing? We are going to we're going to get the contestants up, the finalists up, back up, onto the, you can hold hands and I can do a voice thing, or you could just go up there and sit there or stand or whatever. And we are going to get your voting. You've got your voting pads, have you not? Out. I'm going to ask David to come up in a second, but you've got, Frank is going to put the slide up. You're going to have 10 seconds, I think, to vote. Here we go. Vote now. Vote now. Vote now. Vote for your winner. PERSA, John or Emma. 1, 2 or 3. They've all got contracts in the post from UM and Initiative, so do not worry for them. Don't feel sorry for them. Right, now, I'm going to ask David Patton, who is a very lovely and old friend of mine, to come up and say a few words and present the trophy. And I think neither of us have got earpieces in, but I think the slide is going to come up, isn't it, to show the winner. But anyway,
well, if you don't know, I certainly don't.
I shall shut up and leave it to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Are we
going to come up? Yeah, the winner's going to come up. Yeah,
great.
And the winner is. Why don't we do that? And the winner is. The winner is Frank. Wow!
Thank you. That's a better agency.
He's going to close it, isn't he?
Okay. Thanks very much. Fantastic. Also, fantastic to see great presenting in 4 minutes. I think it's a lesson to all of us that perhaps we can sometimes be a little bit shorter.